The knock on my cabin door echoed like thunder in the quiet mountain valley. I opened it to find two police officers standing stiffly on the porch, their hands resting on their belts. Before I could even greet them, one of them said, "Sir, we've received a complaint that you're trespassing on private property. Do you have permission to be here?" My heart sank for a moment. Not because I was guilty, but because I already knew who was behind this. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the Homeowners Association. She had been circling my cabin for days, snapping pictures with her phone, scribbling in her little notepad like some detective, and glaring at me as though I were a criminal. I had tried to ignore her, but here she was, escalating. I swallowed my frustration and looked the officers square in the eye. "Gentlemen, I think there's been a mistake. This isn't trespassing. I own this cabin." One of them flipped open a small notepad. "The complainant says this cabin isn't registered under your name and that you've been illegally occupying the land." I almost laughed. Not out of arrogance, but because the truth was far bigger than anyone in this valley seemed to know. You see, I didn't just own the cabin. I owned the land beneath it, the forests surrounding it, and every trail, stream, and meadow stretching out for miles. The entire valley was mine, but I didn't say that yet. Instead, I invited the officers in. I pulled out the thick binder of property deeds, maps, and ownership papers that I kept locked away in a drawer. Their eyes widened as I flipped through the pages, showing them the county seals, the legal signatures, the boundaries stretching far beyond the HOA's little subdivision. This valley, I explained quietly, was left to me by my grandfather. He built this cabin with his bare hands after returning from the war. My family poured sweat and tears into this land long before there was an HOA, long before vacation homes popped up, long before anyone dreamed of building fences in the wilderness. "I'm not trespassing. I'm home." The officers nodded, their tone softening. They excused themselves, leaving me alone with the quiet crackle of the fireplace. But peace didn't last long. The next morning, Karen herself marched up my gravel path, her high heels sinking into the dirt, fury etched across her face. "You may have fooled the cops with your papers," she sneered, "but this is our neighborhood. We have rules here. You can't just live in some rundown shack and do as you please. Your firewood piles are unsightly, your truck doesn't fit the aesthetic, and your cabin is lowering property values. You need to leave." I listened silently, every word dripping with entitlement, every sentence pushing deeper into the raw nerve of injustice. She thought she had power because she chaired a neighborhood committee. She thought her clipboard could outweigh decades of history, sweat, and sacrifice. When she finally paused, waiting for me to argue, I took a slow breath. "Karen," I said evenly, "do you know whose rules you're quoting? Do you know who actually owns the land under your HOA?" Her smirk faltered. "The association, obviously." I shook my head and handed her a folded document. She unfolded it and scanned the lines, her face paling with each word. It was the master deed, the one that showed the HOA didn't actually own the land. They leased it from me. Every manicured lawn, every street, every picket fence stood on ground that belonged to my family. "You see," I said softly, "I've let the HOA manage parts of this valley because I wanted people to enjoy it. But don't mistake kindness for weakness. You don't make the rules here. You live under them," Karen stammered, her voice shaking. This can't be right. We have power." "No," I interrupted gently. "You have permission, and permission can be taken back." For the first time, her arrogance cracked into silence. She turned and walked away, her steps slower, heavier than when she'd arrived. Over the next few weeks, word spread through the neighborhood. At first, people whispered about it like a scandal. But then something unexpected happened. Neighbors started visiting me at the cabin, not with anger, but with curiosity. They asked about the valley's history, about my grandfather, about the wild meadows that stretched beyond the HOA's fences. Slowly, walls came down. Some of them admitted they were tired of the suffocating rules. They wanted to hike the trails, breathe the free air, live without every flower bed being judged. I realized something then. This wasn't just about ownership. It was about freedom. It was about standing up to people who confuse control with community. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridges and painted the sky in gold, I stood on the cabin porch, and looked out over the valley. It wasn't just mine by law. It was mine by blood, by memory, by the stories etched into every tree and stream. Karen never called the cops again. In fact, she quietly stepped down from the HOA board a few months later. The neighborhood changed. It became lighter, freer, more human. And I learned that sometimes the greatest way to protect your home isn't by fighting fire with fire, but by reminding people where true power really lies. It isn't in titles or rules or fear. It's in legacy. It's in truth. It's in knowing that when you stand firm in who you are, no one can take your place in the world.